Welcome, everyone, to today's presentation. I know there are a few people trickling in, but we're going to begin. My name is Mary Ellen Simas. I live in Bristol, Rhode Island, and I am a URI alum as well as a parent to an alum that graduated last year from the Communicative Disorders Program. My daughter, Emma, she was also a commencement speaker last year. And my son, Nathan, is in the engineering program. He is a sophomore. I've served here on the Parents Council for 2 years, and I'm really enjoying my time here. I'm happy to bring programming to you like today's session and look forward to future topics for you to engage in. Just a few notes before we begin. Today's presentation is being recorded, and a link to the recording will be available afterwards on the URI Alumni YouTube channel. If you have questions as the session progresses, please enter them into the Q&A section, and we will get to them during and after the presentation. Victoria McNeil and Zell White will take us through the presentation today. Vicki joined URI in 2022. Prior to becoming a Rhody Ram, she spent 17 years in financial aid leadership positions. Zell is new to URI, joining the institution in August of 2024. Prior to their role at URI, Zell held other higher education administrative positions for 3 years. Together, they work within enrollment services to assist students and families with all of your enrollment needs, from understanding financial aid and registering for courses to paying your bill and getting a transcript. Their goal is to make handling the business side of things as easy and seamless as possible for you so that you can focus on what really matters, getting the most out of your URI experience. Without further ado, I'm going to transfer to Vicki to take you through the presentation. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you very much, Mary Ellen. Just give me 1 second and I'm going to share my screen. Okay, Zell, if you could just give me a thumbs up. Do you see the proper screen right now? Fantastic. So again, welcome everybody to our scholarship resources presentation. We are hoping that today, excuse me, will be very helpful for you as parents with the ability to learn more about scholarship resources, whether they be outside scholarships or scholarships that are offered by the University of Rhode Island, to help point them in the right direction through what can be a very complicated search for the uninitiated. So to get started, I am Victoria McNeil, and I am here with Zell White. Zell will be doing a piece of the presentation related to the foundation scholarships, so scholarships that are generously donated from URI alum. And in addition to that, I'll be going through some outside scholarships. I'm going to talk about a high-level overview, including all of the scholarship landscape. We will look at some specific scholarship searches. I'll share some tips and tricks, and I also give you some concrete steps that you can take to help your student maximize their eligibility for scholarship funds. Throughout the presentation, I do encourage you to ask questions. We have one of our financial aid experts online in the background, and she is ready to answer any questions that you have about scholarships throughout the presentation. So to get started, we're going to talk about a couple of the most common scholarship tools that you may encounter. And the first few on here, FastWeb, Appley, and Big Future, are all national scholarship searches. So what does this mean? They really are compilation websites that are compiling scholarships from many different sources. These are what are considered outside scholarships, meaning they are not coming from the University of Rhode Island. And these are great starting points if your student is just looking for some general scholarship information to see what is out there, what types of deadlines are associated with all of these, and what are the qualifications. I will go a little bit more in depth into a couple of the national tools on the future slides. I also do want to mention that in the state of Rhode Island, we actually have some great scholarship foundations that students find very helpful. We in enrollment services are the people who do receive the checks or the electronic checks from some of these. And so we see this the success that students are having in accessing outside scholarships that will help them to reduce the overall cost of attendance, which I think is something that we're all interested in. A couple of those are listed up on this slide. So Rhode Island Foundation, RISLA Financial Literacy Scholarships. RISLA is just the Rhode Island Student Loan Authority, the College Planning Center of Rhode Island, and also a foundation called Rhode Island Scholarships. So that is definitely a great starting point for students as they're looking to start and see what types of scholarships may be available to them. I do also want to mention that at the bottom of this slide, you will see another link, and that is this one that goes into the grants and scholarship area of the Enrollment Services website. This will have all of the information that you're seeing here, with the exception of the presentation itself, will be available on that site, and it will continue to be posted throughout as well. So let's take a little bit of a closer look at what is probably the largest compilation scholarship database that has existed for a long time now. That's called FastWeb. So this gives you a little bit of insight into, when you go to FastWeb, what you're going to see. One thing that you should know about any of the national scholarship websites is that you generally do have to put some information about yourself or about the student in order to proceed and actually see all of the scholarships that are available. I highly suggest using a separate email address for scholarships if you are actively searching. As you can imagine, there are privacy settings that are associated with all of these, but it is possible that you will receive maybe even more emails than you would actually care to from these. And so I do suggest having a separate email address just to keep yourself organized during the scholarship search. But you can see here, if you go to FastWeb, it will give you the option to say whether you are a student or whether you're a parent or guardian of a student. And they're going to ask you, would you like to subscribe to various newsletters that will tell you when new scholarships come online, reminders about the deadlines, as well as newsletters that give you just general information about locating scholarships. A little more information about FastWeb. As I mentioned, you do need to make a profile. The more information that you put about yourself, or about the student rather, in this profile, the more likely you are to get matched with some scholarships that might be for that student's major, that student's background, that student's interests. All of the websites that I'm showing today are completely free. So they will ask for your email and mailing address. They will not ask for a credit card. And if you do ever get asked for a credit card while searching for scholarships, you definitely are in a place that is not a legitimate site. So again, make sure that you're not being asked for any financial information. It's quite easy to use. I will say, when I was looking for scholarships coming directly out of high school, and perhaps some of you can relate to this, I would go to my high school guidance office, and there would be books, and there would be posters, and there would be various scholarships that we would look through. It is much easier now with the websites, where they're able to really tailor towards what your particular interests are and what your background is, to help you hone in on the scholarships that will be the most worth your time. Another one of the very large scholarship websites is called Appley, formerly referred to as CapEx. If you are closely looking with a student who is in high school, you've probably heard of CapEx before. It is something that's typically used in guidance offices. Again, just like FastWeb, this is another nationwide scholarship resource. So it is another way for you to search for what scholarships are available. And one nice feature of this particular website is that once you actually put your information into it and you start looking at the scholarships, it will also give you an idea of how competitive each of the scholarships are. It definitely is something where there are so many scholarships that are available throughout the nation that you really do want to focus your attention on those that are going to most likely that you would have a better chance for. And that usually means looking in smaller pools, starting locally, which I will share some local resources with you right after this. So this is a listing, and all of these are available on that website at the bottom, that financial aid grants and scholarships website. But this will give you a couple that are handpicked by me because I've seen some success come through for these. So this is not something that everybody will qualify for, but you might be in a situation where you're looking at the description of one of these and you're saying, oh, that actually does look like it might be something for us. So I do want to call your attention to a couple of these. Um, Previous to working at the University of Rhode Island, all of my career was spent in the state of Connecticut. And so I worked very closely with a lot of scholarship foundations in Connecticut in particular. Some people in the room might be from that region as well. And so just as one example of what we've seen, the Hartford Foundation for Public Giving. That is an agency that I worked very closely with at several of the schools in Connecticut. It's good for students who are from Hartford, Connecticut, and 28 of the surrounding towns in the suburban areas. And what I learned from speaking directly with people from this foundation is that there are a lot of scholarships with very few students applying for these. And the last time that I was looking at this a couple of years ago, we're talking about $4,000 renewable scholarships. So that's just one example of the type of thing that you might want to focus your attention on. So for you, it may not be the Hartford Foundation for Public Giving. It may be something in the state of Massachusetts that is similar to that, or wherever it is in the state of Rhode Island, some of those other Rhode Island scholarships that we talked about before. So this will just give you a small idea of the types of scholarships where I would focus most of my time if I were going through this again myself. Del, I did see that there was a question. I think you had your hand raised. Is there something that would be helpful for me to
Oh,
stop on?
yeah. It's just that we could see a meeting reminder in the bottom corner that people have said has been blocking some of the slide
Oh my
content.
goodness, I am so sorry about that.
That's
Thank you
okay.
for letting me know. Okay, is that all clear now? Perfect. Thank you for letting me know. Okay, so let's talk next about tips and tricks that might help your student succeed in finding one or more scholarships that might help them reduce the cost of attending a university. So some of these are going to sound very basic, but I think just being organized is going to make a huge difference. And I will say that I have a daughter who is a high school junior. Organization is something that she is still learning, and she's dealing with school. And so myself as a parent, I'm always trying to show her the importance of deadlines, the importance of keeping track of things in advance, because that way you're just making sure that no doors are going to be closing. You want to have as many of those doors open as possible. And I think as parents, that's some very good information that we're able to impart on our students. So looking through the scholarships ahead of time before you're actually planning to apply, seeing which of those may be the most beneficial for you, and marking those scholarship deadlines on your calendar. I'm sure I don't need to tell anybody in this room that missing those deadlines really will make it so that it's not a possibility to be considered. And so because they do have varying deadlines depending on the scholarship program, marking those on your calendar can make a very big difference in making this much easier than just looking into a large national site. As I mentioned before, the pool of potential applicants it's important to have that as a focus as well. So starting local, does your employer have a scholarship? I will say my mother actually worked for the post office, and there was a local post office from New Hampshire that had a $500 scholarship that I was able to apply for. So that type of thing when you're looking. Going through your high school, going to the guidance office and seeing what resources they have available to them. Those local agencies, so things like the Hartford Foundation for Public Giving, the Rhode Island Student Foundation, those things are very important. Whether you go to a place of worship, whether church, synagogue, temple, any of those things, they may actually have other scholarships that are available just for that small population. And then once you've exhausted all of those local ones, then I would look into the larger searches. But I really would always start local if you're going to spend just a little bit of time there. I did mention previously using a separate email address. That is really just for convenience. It could be something that is of interest to you, or perhaps you like to keep all of your emails together. but it is just a tip to make sure that you're not receiving too many emails that you're not able to get through. The essay, you will find that you will see a lot of the same topics over and over again for scholarships that require an essay. And so having an essay that is developed on these types of topics that are up here, so how have you demonstrated leadership? Tell me about challenges that you've had in your life and how you've overcome them. What do you hope to accomplish through education, and how would the scholarship make a difference for you? Those are the types of things that students may be able to develop 1 or 2 essays that they can reuse throughout the process, so that they're not spending a ton of time on redoing the same essay over and over again. Use it for different purposes. That is absolutely a fine thing to do. Keep your grades up. This is something I'm always telling my daughter, and also telling anybody who I encounter, students who are looking for scholarship money, whether they're coming directly out of high school or whether they are continuing on in their journey and they're looking in their sophomore or junior years at URI. The grades are really, really important. Scholarships do often use that grade point average, the GPA, to determine eligibility and sometimes even amounts. And so it is very well used. It is a good use of the students' time, rather, to make sure that they're keeping their grades up, not only if they're a high school student still trying to get into college, but also once they're here, to make sure that they have as many possibilities open to them as they possibly can. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to my colleague Zell White to talk about donor scholarships that come through the URI Foundation.
Perfect. Thank you, Vicki. Yeah, so another option that students have at URI is something called Academic Works. And this is through our URI Foundation, as Vicki was mentioning. And this year in particular, over 2,300 scholarships were awarded and granted. And through those 2,300 scholarships, over $3 million were awarded. So we want to award this money to the students, as it is there for you to help you get through college. And this process opens every year in April. It's actually going to open up this year on the 1st, and it is open to currently enrolled students. So if you are not currently enrolled and you were to try to access this, you will not be able to. You will need to have a URI sign on. So just keep that in mind. And the deadline to apply for this upcoming cycle for the 2025-2026 academic year is June 30th. So if we go to the next slide, I wanted to make a little bit of a note about first-year students and graduate students, because we've been getting a lot of questions about these particular populations. So the opportunities that are in Academic Works are generally created with the intent to award upper class undergraduate students, meaning sophomores, juniors, and seniors. While the opportunities are not typically designated for first-year students, that does not mean that they don't exist. It is still encouraged that you set a profile up in Academic Works and submit a general application, which I will show you what that looks like in a couple moments. That's just because, some opportunities may come up, and if you apply, you'll have the opportunity to be considered. So it doesn't hurt to just apply anyway. And then similarly for graduate students, there is a limited amount of scholarships that are awarded to our grad students, but we still encourage grad students to apply for the general application as well. That way that we have your application on hand. So if you're looking for information about our URI Foundation Alumni Scholarship website, you can go to the Enrollment Services webpage and find more information about Academic Works. This page here that you can see in this image will help you access Academic Works through the My Apps Microsoft portal, and you can watch some helpful video instructions on how to log into that, as well as apply for scholarships. So when you access Academic Works, this is the page that you're going to see at first before you sign in. So you can see here that it says welcome. It gives a little bit of an explanation about the cycle. So it's saying it'll be open from April 1st until June 30th for the next upcoming year. And then it'll give you a nice little reminder about completing applications and frequently asked questions. And just a reminder, you will need to sign in with your URI credentials to access the general application, as well as access the scholarships available. And again, this will not be open until April 1st. So if you were to try to do it today, you would not be able to see any of that right now. Okay, so once you log in and you're able to get your profile set up, you will see that there's this home page for your applications, your opportunities, and you'll want to start with the general application. You can find this under My Applications, and this is where you'll be able to submit the general application once you hit the My Applications tab. So there's this nice little box here. In this case, this particular student has already submitted a general application, so there it says update. If you're new here, it won't say update, it'll say start or submit. And once you click that, it'll pull up into this other page here where you answer the questions of your name and the date, and you'll want to click the yes, I agree to authorize us to use your information to then match you to scholarships. And just a note that you do need to resubmit this every year to continue to be considered for awards. The next step is looking through all of the opportunities. Now, there are a lot of opportunities and it can be overwhelming to look through all of them. So there's a nice little feature here that you can search by keywords. If you, for instance, know that you wanted to major in, say, engineering, you can go into this search to look up engineering and it will pull up relevant scholarships. However, maybe you just want to look at in general what is available. So if you go to the opportunities tab, you're going to see all the scholarships that are designated as apply to scholarships. This means that the scholarship has a separate application on top of the general application with a few specific questions that you will need to answer to submit to be considered eligible. Some opportunities do require a short essay or a document, so make sure that you are meeting all the requirements. And each opportunity should be specific in what they are asking for. So make sure you're answering all the questions and attach any documents in order to be considered. If you're missing any of those, we may not be able to consider you. So just keep that in mind. So here's an example of applying to one of those apply to scholarships. You open a scholarship that you are interested in. It gives you a nice little description of what the scholarship is for. And this one in particular only has one question. Some might have more than one, some might have just one. It kind of depends. So once you have all the answered questions filled out or have the essay or whatever it is asking for, all you want to do is hit finish and submit, and it will finish your application. And then step 3. So if you're selected, first of all, congratulations, but second of all, students will be requested to fill out a thank you letter for the donors. You can see this under your My Applications tab. For each opportunity, just make sure if you were to be accepted that you click on the finish button. Sometimes students get a little bit confused and think that filling out one means they filled out one for every single one. That is not the case. You will have to do it individually. And then a nice little note is some donors even like to meet the recipient. So keep that in mind. You don't have to, but it is something that some of them do request. And then there are other opportunities that we do have called auto match. So this is where we do the work for you. So the system will take your general application that you submit and match you to some scholarships that have preset qualifications to generate a list of pre-qualified students. So from there, we go through the matches to identify a recipient. There's no other steps on your end other than to make sure you fill out the general application. So this is why we encourage everybody to fill one out, even if you're not sure if you would qualify for anything. That way you can be put into the pool. And that is all I have. Back to you.
Thank you, Zell. So how can you help your student access any of the scholarships that we were talking about? Number one, you've already done. You've attended today's session, and hopefully the information will help you be able to help your student as well. The next one is to file the FAFSA, which is the free application for federal student aid. That is required every year, and it is important that the student lists the University of Rhode Island as one of the schools to receive the results. And something to know is that this FAFSA, the free application for federal student aid, is sometimes a requirement for scholarships. So even if you're not sure if you're going to qualify for anything, in my opinion, it is worth your time, again, just so you're keeping all of those doors open to you. Becoming familiar with the outside resources and letting your student know what you learned. It sounds like this presentation will be available. Students are also always able to talk to anybody in enrollment services if they have specific questions related to anything with financial aid, whether it be scholarships or other types of aid. Remind students to check their emails and texts from URI, let them know about the upcoming process. When Academic Works opens, which again is that portal that we use for our donor scholarships, we do let students know about it. So we tell current students, we send them a text message, and we do send them an email. And just in general, it's quite important that students be watching those, especially the university emails, because we do send out all sorts of information related to financial aid, including the reminder to go and log into Academic Works, which will be open again on April 1st. Reading local papers, whether those be online or whether they be an actual physical paper that you're getting, looking for local scholarships in your community is a great way to get started. And again, those deadlines, making sure that students are keeping track of their deadlines. Sometimes this might be a shared document, whether it be a Google document, maybe it's a shared calendar that you have. Maybe you just want them to track all of this themselves and maybe just pointing them in the right direction and reminding them that there are deadlines. These are all ways that we as parents can assist our students in being successful from a financial standpoint. And with that, I do have our contact information up here, and I am going to turn it back over to Mary Ellen.
Thank you so much, Vicki and Zell, for that great presentation, and all of you for your thoughtful questions that were answered in the chat. We have a final call. If anybody has any questions, you can raise your hand. We can answer them from the raised hand verbally, or we can answer it again in the chat. You'll see more information on this slide regarding the Parents Council. Thank you to all of the council members who joined today's webinar as well. And if you'd like to engage and learn more about the work of the council or about joining, please contact Alicia Johnson directly. Her information is, the contact information is directly on this slide. Thank you, and go Rhody. We have a couple of questions in there. In the chat, I don't see any raised hands.
I think I do see one, Mary Ellen, somebody from named Kate.
Okay, I can't, that's not on my end, so you might have to pick it, Victoria, and just
Sure. So it looks like I do see in the chat, Kate asked, are all scholarships considered extra, or do they change the financial aid award? That is definitely a very common question that is asked. So here's how scholarships work at the University of Rhode Island. First of all of the donor scholarships, those are always extra. So that's not something that you would need to worry about. For outside scholarships, we do take, first of all, any unmet financial need. So the difference between what the total cost is to attend URI, that SAI number that you're getting from the FAFSA, that determines how much financial need you have. And then we subtract out the other financial aid. The first place that any of those outside scholarships go is towards your unmet need, which means that it's not going to reduce anything in the financial aid package. If the scholarship is so large that it then takes up all of that space and then there is more of the scholarship left, the next thing that we look at is reducing loans. So we want to make sure that the student's hard work is not gone unnoticed and that the student is able to borrow less funding if their scholarship is so large that they that all of the extra space and that unmet need is taken. And then at that point, only if the scholarship is beyond their unmet need and beyond their loans, then it can potentially impact other financial aid. I will say it is very rare. I've seen it probably happen once or twice at the time that I've been at URI maximum. And those are some very large scholarships up to like $20,000. That's the type of scholarship that would make a difference there. I will say also on the Enrollment Services website, we do have this policy spelled out for you. So if you want to look at it again, you will be able to find it on that scholarship website. I don't see any other hands raised. Are there any other questions, maybe Zell or Abby, that you see that need to be answered still? Oh, sorry, Dory. I do see a question from Dory also coming through. And Dory, if you would like to maybe put it into the chat, or maybe it's in the Q&A. Let me just double check there. Here we go. Okay. Dory, thank you. So I do see your question. Our student has told us that she has not received her FAFSA results. Is there someone at a URI phone number at financial aid office I can call to follow up? Yes, absolutely. So I will tell you, and I'll tell you what the phone number is, but if Zell or Abby can also type this into the chat, that would be helpful. It's area code 401-872-9500. So again, 401, I think I said 872 by mistake, pardon me. 401-874-9500 is the enrollment services number, or you can just go to our website, look up URI Enrollment Services, and we can assist you with your FAFSA questions.
The only other thing that I see in the chat, Vicky, is just someone is asking if you could post your slide one more time with the contact information. One last.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Does that look good, Mary Ellen?
That looks great. And then there's an anonymous question that just asks, just wondering, since some scholarships are based on existing financial need and that the need, oh, it just went away. Hold on a second. Oh, it might have already been answered. I only have 2 open questions, so it might have been answered in the Q&A. Last one is a P3 pharmacy student considered a graduate student because there is no bachelor's degree conferred.
Thank you. I'm just going to look to Abby real quick on that one to confirm that I'm thinking about the right level, at which point they're considered a graduate student. Abby, is P3 considered graduate?
Students are considered graduate students when they are over 120 credits, and we get a list from the School of Pharmacy in regards to each student's eligibility as a graduate student at that time.
Thanks, Abby.
There was just one question that the presentation will be posted on an email. You'll get notification, I think, if you've signed up for this and didn't attend, but the presentation, the recorded presentation, and a link will be available that might get emailed to you on the URI Alumni YouTube channel. So if you've signed up for this, you'll probably get a link, but if you want to just search it in the URI Alumni YouTube channel, we'll have today's presentation. Again, I thank you all for joining us, and a big